Hey, my name's Hervin. I'm a fee-for-service financial planner here in Calgary. In the last few years, I've worked with clients with different levels of wealth, from a resident doctor who's near $400,000 in student loans and an entrepreneur who just sold his business with nearly $14 million liquid. I bring that up because I want you to start rejecting the idea that wealth is a determinant of complexity. Financial complexity and overall complexity in your life. See, you can be really rich and have a simple life and a simple money management plan. But the opposite is also true. Unfortunately, you can be broke with a significantly messier or complex situation. Let me translate that. More money does not mean more problems. I apologize in advance if this alienates a lot of people. But I just want to share, the typical clients that I've worked with lately have investments anywhere from $1.5 to $2 million. That's in financial assets. And it's probably closer to $3 or $4 million when their real estate is included. But even within that group, there is a range of financial complexity, and it is often self-inflicted. Many of the strategies that are implemented before working with us are unnecessary. So much unnecessary complexity. A lot of it is from following TikTok strategies. I can simply end this video and say, choose to simplify your life, but you likely won't listen. So allow me to elaborate on this, and I'll do my best to make this as applicable to as many Canadians as possible. Allow me to bust some myths and bullshit, and I'll help you with some strategies that you can explore on your own. Let's start with the first myth. The idea that less money means less complexity in a simpler life. Now, I get it. It seems intuitive, right? Less money, fewer responsibilities. But in reality, financial strain can actually lead to a lot of unexpected stress. Whether it's worrying about covering healthcare expenses that prop up, unexpected home repairs, or helping an adult child that needs support, can make your retirement budget even tighter. And that will definitely lead to more complexity in ways that are not even immediately obvious to you. On the flip side, many assume that if we do not have wealth, then we need to create a sophisticated financial strategy so that we can get there. A complicated mix of investments, insurance, and other crazy products, and elaborate estate plans that are not warranted. But here's the truth. More money doesn't need to mean that you have to complicate your life. We often think that more wealth needs to equal more complexity because it feels like we're doing more, that we need to do more, but more isn't always better. Sometimes the right answer is to stay put, stand still, and just pay attention. In fact, in many cases, the more complex a strategy is, the higher the cost and the more stress it brings without a proportionate increase in returns and in wealth building. I actually think this is a form of self-sabotage. Many people unknowingly prevent themselves. And you know what? Instead of talking about many, let's talk about you. You may be unknowingly preventing yourself from accumulating wealth, or if you're already wealthy, going to the next stage because you're afraid of Uncle Ben, right? With great power comes great responsibilities, and you're afraid that you won't be able to handle the complexity and the deemed burdens that comes with wealth. Unfortunately, many of that won't even come. Many of these deemed burdens will not even come, yet you're stopping yourself from pursuing the next level. You're tricking yourself into choosing simple. It's a false dichotomy. You don't have to choose between being poor and having a complex life. Let's move on to myth number 2. It's believing that the rich know strategies that we don't. It's believing that they know something that you don't, so I have to learn. I have to learn these insane strategies so that I can become part of the club and I can also get rich. I think this is really pervasive. The belief that the rich know strategies we don't, and we need to learn these strategies to become wealthy. This idea can make retirement planning seem really, really overwhelming. We see people employ fancy sounding investment tools and crazy tax strategies. I don't know, I'm doing that. But they falsely believe that they must also have access to these secrets. Otherwise, they can't level up. But here's the truth. Many of these strategies that you are now seeing more often on TikTok, like setting up a trust, setting up multiple corporations, these are for very specific needs. And oftentimes, it's about managing risk because they already have substantial wealth. It's not about the getting rich part of the adventure. It's about safeguarding what these people already have. The strategies used by the wealthy can be unnecessarily complex and expensive for many average Canadians. The truth is, if we employed these for the average Joe, the cost is typically higher than the return. There's just a diminishing return, diminishing benefit if you pursued all of these. See, the belief that there is a secret strategy that the wealth knows out there that you don't have access to, it creates an unnecessary pressure. It makes you feel like you're missing out on part of the adventure if your plan is too straightforward. But the basics will always hold true. Spending less than you earn, investing wisely, and staying diversified and staying the course. These work well. They just don't have fancy names and titles. These work well for the massive, massive, massive majority of people. Remember, the goal of retirement isn't to make your finances look sophisticated. It's to make sure your finances actually support the life you want. I'll tell you something sad. This lie will continue because it makes for an excellent marketing angle. It's an excellent marketing strategy for people who are trying to sell you stuff, whether it's financial instruments or courses. It confirms your deemed suspicion that you are in a lesser position because something is being kept from you. There's gatekeepers out there. It also passes the blame to somebody else. You're not as wealthy as you could be because these gatekeepers, are keeping it from me. It also allays your fears that you're about to miss out on another opportunity if you don't agree to what they're presenting to you. Then it obviously encourages your dream to pursue wealth in a greater life. Then boom, all of it will be solved by this panacea of financial success concocted from your own insecurities and past failures. And of course, they'll sprinkle a very healthy dose, a very healthy, potent dose of salesmanship. So stop believing this myth that the rich know something that you don't. That's why you're falling behind. Myth number 3. You're not getting to where you are because you're overtaxed. I mean, this handsomely links to myth number 2, right? I don't have enough because I'm overtaxed, and the rich, they know some crazy loopholes that I have no access to and I don't know what it is. They keep employing these strategies so that we, the average Canadian, have to shoulder the taxes for our country. Until I learn the same tax loophole so I can keep more money, I can't get there. I have news for you. Come closer. You already have access to the best tax loophole in Canada. And it has been around since 2009. I won't keep it a secret anymore. It's the tax-free savings account. It grows absolutely tax-free. Seriously, watch this video below about the $1 million TFSA because I have more news for you. Many people complain that they're behind because they don't have the same tax access and the same tax plays as some of these elites. But if you are one of those people complaining, yet you are not saving and investing in your TFSA, you'll likely stay behind and stay poor because you're not paying attention. It's not because you're overtaxed. You will stay poor because you undersave. If that comes off harsh, good. I mean it to come from a good place. I promise you that. I want to shake you into getting your own agency. Getting agency in your own life. I want you to be your own money hero. I mean that. Take agency of your own financial future. Myth number 4 is a very sad one. If I have no assets, the government will take care of me, so my life will actually be simpler. This is an extreme, but it's also a reality. A lot of people, unfortunately, still believe that it's the government's responsibility to take care of them. And I'm glad we're in a country where that's the case. There is some level of support. Don't believe, please, don't believe that your retirement plan is simpler because you don't have savings. In fact, it might be the opposite. If you have very limited personal savings and you have to rely on social service programs in your retirement, chances are you actually need more guidance and planning and some more focus. That's because much of these programs are either income tested or, depending on the province, might even be asset tested. That means if you make a mistake, you can find yourself eliminating or significantly reducing a benefit that you need to live off of. Income tested benefits look at what you declared as taxable income in the prior year. So your 2024 filing will determine the levels of support you'll get from the government in 2025. The GIS, or the Guaranteed Income Supplement, is income tested. I have a sample case study for that in the links below. The Alberta Seniors Benefit, which provides a bit of a top-up to the GIS, is how you access dental and prescription benefits for low-income seniors. That is also income tested. Caregiver benefits may also be income tested. Supported living and subsidized care homes can be both income and asset tested. So if you make the mistake of drawing from your RSPs because it's just a small amount, or from liquidating your investments because it's just a small amount, maybe you think it's just $10,000 or $20,000, so I'll just get rid of all of it, you can actually find yourself without a key source of income in the following year. So be careful. Myth number 5. I need to diversify my accounts across numerous financial institutions. This is a half-truth, and honestly, it requires a more nuanced understanding. But you're asking this question likely because you're afraid. What if the bank or the investment firm you are investing with fails? Fair enough. We need to ask these questions. I mean, Credit Suisse went bye-bye and UBC was forced to marry its corpse. Let's talk about deposits first. We'll handle investments later briefly. See, Canadians have access to the CDIC. The limits are $100,000. So for many, this leads them to believe that they need to move their deposits above $100,000 to a different bank. Now, in that case, if both banks fail, you have $100,000 per institution. I'll create a different video about the CDIC because it's misunderstood, but in a nutshell, it covers deposits in your checking, your savings account, and GICs in term deposits. It does not cover mutual funds, stocks, bonds, and crypto. However, there are different subcategories that will have $100,000 of coverage each. So accounts in your name alone can be all added together, and that will have a $100,000 limit. Accounts in a joint account with your spouse will also have another limit. So theoretically, your basic deposits can be covered up to $300,000. If you and your spouse are in the same institution, you're covered up to $100,000 each on your individual accounts, and then another $100,000 for the joint accounts. I don't want to dive into the other subcategories because that's not really my point here. What's more important is, why would you be in a position where you have over $100,000 in cash deposits? Unless you have a clear reason for needing the fund short term, being cash heavy means foregoing long-term returns and losing to inflation. So you're actually committing two sins in my eyes here. You're having too much cash that really drags your long-term returns and your forgo returns. And then you're overcomplicating it by splitting it up among different institutions. So first, before you start sprinkling your accounts everywhere, ask yourself, why are you holding so much cash? And it's even more unnecessary if you are doing this and it's less than $100,000 in total. Now let's move on to the investments. We have the CIPF, the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. This will cover investors if a member firm goes bankrupt or insolvent. That covers $1 million in non-registered accounts, $1 million in registered accounts. So RIFs, RSPs, your LIRAs, that's all pooled together. That has $1 million limit. Then the TFSA and the FHSA is combined. That also has another limit of $1 million per investor. If you're a business owner and you have a corporation, that will also have another $1 million limit. So that brings us to Yeah, up to 4 per person. When you get to that stage that you're really exceeding these, then it becomes prudent to diversify asset allocation and location among different institutions and different custodians. But for many who are watching this, absolutely not necessary. You do not need to complicate your life that way. That's enough ranting for right now. I hope that this was a bit eye-opening for you. You might be committing many of these unnecessary steps or unnecessary beliefs about complexity when you can just simplify your life. So here's how you can simplify your retirement. Here's a few tips. You can watch that in this video.